Us today. Coach Waldron is going to start off by saying a few words, and then we will open it up to questions. So, Coach, floor is yours. Coach, you're muted there. And just a reminder to everyone to mute themselves.
Hey, there's the standard start to these Zoom things, right? I'm the guy that was muted. All right, so just want to start off by saying I appreciate you guys joining me for this. First thing I'd like to mention is just my appreciation and for Pete Carroll and John Schneider and how great they were with this process, with the interview and getting a chance to know each other and really start that relationship and build it throughout the process. And then everything has culminated with this great opportunity to join the Seattle Seahawks and their organization and be the offensive coordinator. I couldn't be more fired up personally, get a chance to get back up to the Pacific Northwest. I know my wife, Megan, and my two daughters, Lainey and Riley, they're fired up. They're ready to jump in the car and drive right up I-5 right now and get there. Obviously, we got some things we need to work through with these times and being safe and being aware of how we're going to do that. But the 12s are going to have 3 more people that'll be right there with them, ready to rock and roll. The other thing is kind of be remiss. My parents are up there. It's as close as I've ever been to them. It's my mom's birthday today, so I have to say happy birthday. But my mom and my dad have been so instrumental and so helpful along the way in really forming, or developing my beliefs and being such a great foundation for where I've come from. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, because, this is a relationship driven business and there's great friends and great people that you meet along the way, and no one really goes at this alone. And I think, Sean McVay, the things he's done for me, both from our friendship, being a colleague, being a mentor, and really providing me a platform to grow and develop in this business has been so instrumental to leading me to this opportunity. And I get it. There's a competitive nature that all of a sudden just switch sidelines with this thing. But with Sean and with Les and Kevin and the rest of the Rams organization, along with all those coaches and players, I wouldn't be here without them. And I am so appreciative, but also ready to compete and ready to get after this 2021 season with the Seahawks. So all that being said, I'd like to turn it over and ready to answer 1 or 2 questions.
Thank you. All right, Ian Furness, why don't you start us off?
Shane, during the interview process, and your conversations with Pete Carroll, did he give you an indication of how autonomous you'll be as a play caller, how much he gets involved in the offense of either game planning or in-game play calling, and maybe just talk about what all of that entails in terms of how you're going to be working as an offensive coordinator and how much input he's going to have pre-game and also in-game?
Sure. No, I've talked to Pete a bunch about this throughout the process. He has my back, fully supportive with what I want to do and what direction we want to take this thing together. So it will be a situation where I feel like I'm walking into a great scenario with a bunch of great coaches that have such a solid foundation, from Coach Carroll right on down through the rest of the men on the offensive staff that I'll get a chance to work with. And the way I'm looking at this thing, it's like any other part of football size. And it's not just about the guys carrying the ball. It's going to be all 11 every play, cognizant of the ball, cognizant of what their role is within the play and how they can protect the football. Number 2 is we're going to be a fundamentally sound offense. I think, from the start of Pee Wee football all the way up to the professional level, it's a great game and it's always based on fundamentals. And I don't think that can get lost just because, you're getting higher and higher up as far as the competition and the level of players. So it's going to be a fundamentally sound group that's going to be bought in together, working well together. And we're not going to let a day go by where we're not working on one of the fundamental core beliefs of our offense, whether it's blocking, whether it's catching the ball, it's the exact detail in which we're going to take a handoff or the exact detail in which we're going to run a route. So that's the number 2 thing. And then really for me, our offensive philosophy, we're going to be a balanced offense that's going to have that ability to create explosive plays with that attacking mindset. we want to be the one that the foot's on the gas pedal. We're going. And I know, I'm sure some of these questions will come up, the tempo and all that different stuff. Well, hey, there's going to be a wide variety of pieces to this offense, but that mindset is never going to change. And how we get to that is really going to be all based on the players, because any of these core beliefs really don't get off the ground without them. And so, I'll have this system of beliefs that we're going to walk in the door with. We're going to build it around that. And then the players are going to make that system come to life. And what the final product's going to look like, that's not going to be determined until that opening game where, hey, these are the guys and this is how the puzzle pieces fit together. And shoot, there's a lot of guys that I'm excited to get to work with.
Corbin Smith.
Hi, Shane. Welcome to Seattle. When
Thank
Brian
you.
Schottenheimer was hired back in 2018, Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll both talked about this, that 75% of the offensive concepts were kept from the previous coaching staff. Do you envision there being a similar blend in your first year as the coordinator? Or are you looking to be a bit more ambitious with implementing your core concepts into the scheme?
Sure. I wouldn't say more ambitious as much as, just I have a core set of beliefs that I'm going to stick to, but we're going to build this thing together. And I think that, the one thing with Russell and with the rest of the players that are on this team, they have a great foundation and have won a lot of football games together. So will there be parts of stuff that carries over? Absolutely. Because there's been some great things that they've done in the past. But for me, I'm really more worried about 2021. And, there's a lot of things in the past that we all learn from. And I think we grow from those experiences. But really everything moving forward is going to be all about this year and how this group of players fits together, how this group of coaches fit together, and how we can attack that with that competitive mindset.
Ben.
Hey, Shane. First of all, welcome to Seattle.
Thank you.
I was wondering, in what ways do you feel like your vision for the Seahawks offense is in line with what both, kind of Pete Carroll wants? He's kind of stated his desire to want to run the ball more, but also Russell Wilson, who's kind of said he wants to be able to do everything. How do you feel like maybe you can kind of marry those two desires with kind of what you bring to the table?
That's a great question. I think the balanced approach is really how I want to view this thing. And I think that's what really blends, the ability to play good complementary football, whether it's running the ball or understanding how the defense is playing in different games versus different offensive systems, how the special teams are playing, and having that balanced approach that's able to adjust and adapt depending on the style of the game or what maybe the score might dictate in any particular game. And I think the great part about Russell Wilson within this system is he does have an ability to do a lot of different things. And, just because it's I'm saying that it's a balanced attack doesn't mean that that's a conservative attack. So I don't ever want to get that confused. So that'll really be the core philosophy that we live by as far as the starting point with, run versus pass versus, any other schematic things we want to get into. We want to have that balanced approach.
Thanks.
Art.
Shane, you grew up obviously in Portland in the late '90s when Dennis Erickson and Warren Moon and Joey Galloway and Brian Blades were the big stars. What did you were you a big fan of that team, and what do you take away from those years?
Yeah, no. Well, I can't fudge this because I got some friends in Portland that would say, I don't know about that. I was, growing up, I was a huge Blazers fan. So I know some of the Supersonics people in the Seattle area will maybe get on me a little bit about that. But I was an NFL fan all around. Probably growing up more in the college football world as far as Oregon having the Ducks and then and the Beavers going there. So, but I always followed these guys. I mean, from when I was a little kid with Steve Largent, and then moving on right up the ranks to all the greats that have played up in Seattle. I think it's been something I've always followed and something I'm looking forward to joining that family of fans with.
Michael Sean.
Hey Shane, kind of where are you on some of the analytics that become more popular in football that maybe emphasize more passing, going for it more on fourth downs, and things like that?
I appreciate that. I think like anything, this game's always evolving, right? And it's you always have to have that ability as a coach to adapt to new technologies, new ways of looking at things, and always approaching that with an open mind. And my philosophy with the analytical approach is that I think there's some great things that have really opened up our eyes as coaches as to what some approaches can be in different scenarios. But I also think there is at the in certain scenarios within the game, there's that great balance of what do the analytics potentially tell you to do in that situation versus also what's the feel in the game and what are the variables that have changed from a personnel standpoint within the game that might lead you to some different decisions, whether it's a chance on fourth down to go for it. To me, I just think there's always a collaboration on those decisions. And I love using the analytics as the starting point and then be able to make smart, sound decisions based on the flow of a football game.
Thanks.
Greg Bell.
Hello, Shane. Greg Bell, the News Tribune, beat writer. Welcome back.
Greg, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How much has Pete Carroll said specifically, we want to run play action, we want to feature the tight end more, we want to get the ball out more quickly, the things that we saw McVay's offense do with the Rams? How much is that directly what you intend to impact this offense?
Well, I think, one thing I want to, be not to avoid questions, but also getting too team specific, in the thing out of the gate here. But I do understand where you're coming from. And again, in my mind, that goes back to just having that ability where you're building a foundation of an offense that can utilize all 11 people. And, I know, whether it's the tight end position, whether it's the running back position, the receivers, my approach philosophically is really trying to be able to get all 11 involved. And then obviously as you get specific into each game plan, and it is a player driven league. So there are going to be certain guys that you're going to want to get the ball in their hands and into those playmakers' hands more than other guys. And that's the way it goes. And there'll be guys that have roles that are complementary players. There'll be guys that have roles where they're maybe more impactful as far as touching the ball. But all of that stuff, I think, comes together as we build this thing. And as, going back to my belief in, starting with that balanced attack and having that attacking mindset, but then figuring out how the players all fit into how all the players fit into the puzzle. And that's an ongoing process that, like I said, would really take us right to that first game to see, exactly what everyone can do and not be held back by the thought of what can't someone do. I want to be moving forward and saying, what can these guys do and look at it from that mindset and attack it that way.
Joe Fan.
Hey, Shane, I think when people are talking about offensive coordinators, evaluating offensive coordinators, the word creative or creativity comes up a whole lot. Is that an oversimplification, or is that a fair word that's a part of your job description as an offensive coordinator?
Sure. I think you always need to have a pulse of the league and not just the league, but college football and high school football. Cause there's I have a belief that, you can see some of the most creative football at the high school level, and then it trickles up to the college level and then up to the pros, because, you're talking about some scenarios in those settings where the playing field is not always equal, in pro ball, everyone is so close. I mean, the margin for error is so small. Everyone's so similar in their abilities. So being able to bring out the best of their abilities is a huge part of it. And within that is where I think, like I said, having a pulse of the league, having a pulse of what's going on in college football, where you can say, okay, here's our to your players and and always to be open to discussions on things that are going on around throughout all of football.
Bob.
Yeah, Shane, welcome to Seattle. Just curious, did you have much of a relationship with Pete Carroll prior to this? And, did you reach out to him first about this, or did they reach out to you? How did this sort of process get started?
I've always just respected him from afar or from the opposite sideline. I've never had a chance to really interact with him before Seattle had reached out to start this interview process. So that was really the way this thing started. And, my first experience going against Coach Carroll was not a positive one. I was fortunate to work with Charlie Weiss at Notre Dame as a graduate assistant when he was in his USC days. And, he got the better of us a couple times there. So, but that was really the start of my really appreciation for him and as a head coach and as a person. But it's all been from afar. And now this has been a chance to really start to develop that relationship.
Curtis?
Hey Shane, welcome to town. Could you kind of take us through the interview process, what it was like to speak with Pete about the job, your interest in it and all of that, and if your kind of view of what Pete and this organization is kind of was altered at all from those conversations compared to what you've seen from afar?
Yeah, different than most years. There was a digital interview process, so to speak. So there was a lot of phone calls, a lot of FaceTime, Zoom elements to this process with him. Several days, over the course of several days, we spoke, had some great conversations, starting with philosophy, starting with my history and really taking it all the way through things that he believed in. And at the end of this thing, really just making sure that we were aligned in how we view the game, how we view things moving forward. And, one of the big things that I was excited about is just always seeing from the outside looking in and knowing, I feel like I'm coming from a football culture that was unbelievable, with the people and the way everyone interacted and the things that I was able to be lucky enough to be a part of with the Rams, but always seeing like, hey, that Seattle team seems like they have a lot of the same core beliefs. And then getting a chance to talk to Pete about, his desire to field a team that's always based on that mindset of competing. And, that's such a key and critical factor in this, and not just saying you're going to compete, but making everything that you're doing every day some form of a competition to look to improve. And how we're going to get there, this is where I think speaking with him about, the development of people and trying to bring out the best version of everyone's self is something that's really, hits home for me. It's something I really believe in, where, it is a team game, but there's a lot of different special individuals that make up a team. And so we talked a lot about, working together and figuring out how you can bring out the best version of every individual in the building. And I'm looking forward to the players and the coaches doing the same for me and Coach Carroll, where we're all in this thing together and working towards that common goal. And so that's where, talking through the interview process with him and talked a lot of football, but we also talked a lot about some of those core philosophical beliefs, which were in great alignment.
Tim Booth.
Hi, Shane. I'm wondering if you happen to have conversations with Russell during the interview process, and if not during the interview process, if since you're hiring, what the conversations have been like with him about direction and where you intend to take the offense.
Yeah, really both. Had a great chance to get to know him as a person. Talked a lot about our families and just really getting to know each other more as people, because I do think, the football part of it, that's going to be an important part of it when the time's right. But, our conversations really have centered around, just who we are as people, because you're in a room with some guys for a lot of hours every day when that season gets rolling. And I think that compatible personality, he seems like he has this unrelenting desire to be better, to be the best that he can be. So I think, when we started talking about those things, that's where it was some really fun conversations. And, a lot of those details I'll leave between him and I, but those are the things that we really talked about. And like I said, it's a relationship based business. So the starting point for him and I was just trying to build that relationship, see how we would interact together. And when you're able to sit there and have conversations that are natural and fluid and talk about everything and not just football, I think that's a great foundation for where this where this relationship can go.
Brady.
Shane, Brady Henderson, congratulations on the job. With being a first-time play caller in the NFL, what does that challenge seem like to you, and what have you learned from Sean McVay about that?
Yeah, it's a great challenge, and it's a challenge that I've been preparing for my whole life. And so I think it's one of those things that I'm ready to get going with and excited to attack that opportunity. I've learned a ton from Sean along the way. With that play calling experience, he's allowed me the opportunity to do it in different settings, whether it's the preseason or scrimmages or practices. So I've had a little a hand in it that way, knowing that that's obviously not the real deal, and there's going to be that opportunity here coming up. But like I said, it's just one of those things where I feel like, you know, I'm a guy that likes to prepare. I want to be organized. I want to have a really consistent approach. And in my mind, that preparation began a long time ago, and I can't wait for this chance to go ahead and do it.
Adam.
What's up, Shane? Hey, a couple quick questions going way back to your days at Tufts. Coach Samko there said he thought you were good enough as a long snapper to maybe have a shot at playing in the league. Is that something you pursued at all after college? And then secondly, I know you and Coach Samko have remained pretty close over the years.
Yeah.
What kind of example was he for you? What has he meant for your coaching career?
Yeah, no, he's been way too kind. I wish I was a better football player than I was. I love football and you know, played it as long as I could in different aspects. But you know, I knew I was going to be coaching when the talent didn't match the ambitions there. So I appreciate that. But you know, the thing that Coach Samko really always reiterated to us and taught me, it was work. You know, there's no shortcuts to this process. Whatever you're doing in life. When I told him I was going to get into coaching, he said, "You better be ready to work." You know, when we were playing for him, that's the foundation of his belief system. And you know, when I was able to get this job, one of the first texts I got from him was, you know, "Hey, that worked. A reminder. This is what it's going to take." So he's always had a great influence and an impact in what I've believed as a coach, and really just that mindset of that hard work and things that, you know, different people from my dad on through have tried to instill in me. And you know, like I said, it's a pretty simple formula.
Nico.
Yes, Shane, welcome to Seattle, Nico Moreno. Wanted to ask you, in terms of, as they mentioned earlier today, being a first-time play caller, that offensive coordinator title comes with sometimes a lot of scrutiny, a lot of responsibility. How do you think you could, you know, deal with maybe some of that pressure that sometimes comes with that position?
Yeah, I think in my mind, pressure's earned, and so there is pressure in this business. It's a business that's driven by results, and so the way I look at that is I'm excited that to have had people that have supported me along the way, that have put me in a position that I can have a chance to go and earn the right to call these plays. And like I said, that pressure is a privilege, and it's part of it, and something that I'm never going to shy away from, and always want to go with that attacking mindset.
Masvida.
Yeah. Hey, Shane, welcome home, I guess. Question for you. The Seahawks had 41 run plays that were of 12 yards or more, and 26 of those ended in a touchdown. From a philosophical perspective, how do you create long running plays in the run game? Or do you count on those? Just from a philosophical perspective, how do you sheen that?
Sure. I think the biggest thing, you know, obviously every run play is going to get started with the guys up front, you know, and their ability, whether it's the O linemen, the tight ends, you know, the ability to get that play started. And then, you know, the next part of that is the backs ability, and making sure that the backs are on the right track and have a great vision of what the linemen are trying to do, how they understand how to set those blocks. And then the second and third level to that is going to be whether it's the receivers or tight ends downfield in that takes all 11 mentality to go ahead and say, I'm going to be that guy that springs someone on a touchdown block. And then, that's always going to be the mindset, right? Everyone has a job on every single run play. They fit into it in a specific way that's designed to get that play to a certain level in the defense. And then there's always going to be, it's a numbers game, right? And that quarterback's not necessarily lead blocking anyone anytime soon in an NFL system. So that's where it's going to be talking to the backs about that slash running and those abilities to attack an edge and work an edge on a defender, because there's going to be a point in time on any explosive run where the back's going to have to take over and either make one miss or run somebody over, which is just part of the game and part of their job and how they fit into the scheme.
Thank you.
Brady.
Hey, Shane, we asked you about your conversations with Russell during the interview process, but what about just the opportunity to work with him as a quarterback?
Yeah, he's an exciting guy to get to work with. He's a guy that just like Coach Carroll, just that utmost respect from afar, from the opposite sideline. A guy that anytime in any situation in the game when, I've been on the offensive side of the ball, but you peek up and you're just saying, man, at any point this guy can explode and create a game-winning play. And, he's the type of quarterback that, which I love, that I don't think there's any scenario that he's probably entered in life where he thought he was going to fall short. And, he's got that mindset that he's going to be the best. He's going to attack every day, preparing himself to be the best. And that's really the exciting part about it. From a positional standpoint, he can make every throw you need to make. He can run any part of any offense that you want to get to. And so I think the best thing for us is going to be really finding out, with this marriage, where we fit together, what things he loves, what things fit offensively, and then moving forward from there. But I couldn't be more excited to work with him.
Michael Sean.
And Shane, what were you primarily responsible for as the passing game coordinator under Sean?
Yeah, kind of wore a lot of different hats in that role, especially, each different year, whether it was from, being responsible for some of the situational aspects of every game, being on the line with him throughout the course of the game, game planning throughout the week, all different areas. So really kind of had a broad stroke in that thing and a lot of different things throughout the week and different things that would pop up throughout every year.
Thanks.
All right, last two here, Shane. Greg Bell.
Okay. And you kind of touched on it. What is already, as you've learned already about what exists in Seattle, the system, the personnel they have, and what Pete Carroll's philosophy is, how closely is that aligned to what you do and what you want to do?
I think that, that was really in my opinion, what was so natural about the interview process was that there was so much philosophical alignment between he and I, going back to just that starting point of, when we talk about, where's the starting point for our offense, saying, hey, it's all about the ball. Well, lo and behold, what's his starting point, and so some of those core philosophies, I had mentioned this to him. It wasn't like an interview where you're trying to sell yourself to win the job in any sort of sales pitch. It was a conversation, and it was a football discussion that had so many things in alignment that it felt like a natural progression as we got to know each other and talk through things. And so many of those things were just naturally in alignment. And that's where I think it felt really good about the process.
Last one, Jackie.
Hey, Shane, your Rams colleague, Andy Dickerson, is going to be joining you in Seattle. Did you play any role in him coming up to Seattle? And how does he kind of fit into this coaching scheme that you and the offensive philosophy you want to implement?
Yeah, I would say probably had a little influence on him making his way up to Seattle. He's been not only a great friend, but a great coach that I've had a chance to work with for a lot of years, going all the way back to, some intern days in New England. And then we were apart from each other, but always stayed in touch. We have a great circle of chain of friends that have been a part of our lives through all these coaching stops. And so Andy and I have been able to continue both a friendship and a coaching relationship, dating all the way back to the late 90s, I guess. And so when there was a chance for me to have talking with Coach Carroll. Hey, is there someone that we can potentially bring with you that would be instrumental in helping you in this transition? My first thought was Andy, and then it timed up with the way everything worked out. So he'll be able to come on board as the run game coordinator, and he'll be instrumental in helping with the transition and really, like I said, the chance to blend with Mike and get things kind of all connected and marry everything that we want to do together philosophically.
All right. Thanks, Coach. And thanks, everyone, for joining us today.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
sir.
Thanks, guys.
Team.
Thank you.